I'm by no means an expert in boxing, and what's so beautiful about the sport is before a fight, there's such an array of verbal exchanges, and so you can really get into the mind of a boxer or an athlete in combat sports. And I don't know too much about these two athletes, right? But I've then gone to do some research, and I've been able to kind of like tell where they're at with the fight. So let's talk about James DeGALE for a little bit. James DeGALE's very successful in his sport, and the last few fights he's had where he had a rematch against Toro, I think his name was, and lost it at home and beat him away essentially. And he got his pride back, and it was a very valiant fight that he had against Turux, whatever his name is. I'm sorry, but yes. Anyway, so then he had another fight against somebody else, and it was criticized for him being lackluster. And he's come out and he's verbally said that he's had injuries that's prevented him from, playing or fighting at his best. And he's not old, but he's an aging boxer. He's been around for a little while. He's been successful, and even when he was fighting Taro, I apologize if I got his name wrong, but I believe the second fight he said if he wasn't going to win that retirement would be an issue or be a potential next move for him. And that's quite a thing to say before you fight. And I've come to learn that James DeGale's quite honest with himself, but that does not do well for confidence in terms of him saying that if he loses he's gonna retire. But he actually won that fight in the end, so maybe that might have been his way of motivating himself, that it was almost a do or die attitude. And you've got Chris Eubank, who's great. He's a great talent. I don't know much about him. I haven't watched a live fight, but I have seen him train. I've seen him speak, and what I've learned about him a little bit is that he has had a bit of an arrogant approach. He's got a wealth of talent, and that's very clear. And he would obviously know that. He's come from a pedigree of boxing, a family tree, so to speak, and so I've grown to learn that he hasn't had a coach in that time, and he knows exactly what he needs to do to his opponent. And he's been pretty successful in his career so far in terms of his record. And then he got to the fight against George Groves, and then after that fight, he lost to Billy Joe Saunders in 2014. But then when he lost to Groves, he then acknowledged that he does need a coach. It's not going to be that effective him going in with his own mind, his own thoughts, and his own, plan. And watching the fight against Groves, it seemed he was a little bit wild. He didn't really have a bit of a game plan, whereas George Groves, boxed in with great skill. He was very quick, and he made Eubanks look like he was a bit amateurish, or maybe that's a bit harsh to say, but he made him look not like he wasn't a boxer, so to speak, in terms of boxing skill and the know-how. And so there's two stages with these boxers at this present stage. They've done their face-off, they've done their square ups, and James DeGale has come out now again, and he said that this is dubbed a retirement fight. So whoever loses this fight is going to almost lose their career, so to speak. And in some ways, initially, I thought this is not going to be something that empowers James DeGale. But on reflection, this might be something that can actually inspire him again. However, at the same time, he has mentioned injuries quite a bit during the press conferences and the face-offs. So it does seem like he's creating a number of reasons and explanations as to why he might not be successful. He said he's fit now. However, for him to bring up injuries seems like he is providing like preludes to mitigating circumstances. So, it does make me question how confident James DeGale is. And that's only because as well, he came out and said that he came out crediting, Eubanks, and said he's got a lot of heart, etc. And, he's a good boxer, but he hasn't got enough to beat DeGale. And that's something that is easy for DeGale to kind of interpret, especially because he hasn't had a coach. Eubanks I'm talking about now. He hasn't had a coach. He hasn't had that guidance. But it does seem that in that face-off, Eubanks had a bit of a peace about him. He was relaxed. He knows that he wants to win. Losing was not an option. He doesn't even want to entertain the thought. He's got a coach. He said he's learned about his game. He's learned everything about James DeGALE. And I would say from the face-off that, Eubanks has got a mental advantage in this sense. He seems to have grown. He seems to have developed. He seems to have learned. And let's just say if it was arrogance that made him not have a coach, he's humble now. And it'll be interesting to see how that affects him and his performance. And so yeah, it's very important to get the face off and see where they are in terms of their mindset and where they are with their preparations to boxing. But right now, I would say there is a slight advantage to Eubank from what has been said in the face off. And let's see how it unfolds. It's very early. I can't say someone's going to win, but from what's been discussed, from what's been said to each other, and in terms of their behavior on and off the ring, in and out of the ring rather, I think that Eubanks has a bit of a piece and a bit of a know-how, and he's equipped himself with the tools to ensure that there's victory next week or the week after.